What's up, everybody? It's LG Doucette here. You're listening to The First Mint, a podcast where I talk about NFTs and the world of Web3. The podcast comes out every Monday morning and occasionally on Wednesdays. If you like this content and you want some more, feel free to visit our Twitter page at The First Mint. It was Wednesday night, May 25th, literally just last week. And it was about an hour after we finished up the live show, which we just rebooted with myself and the real Phil D and many different guests. I took a look in the First Minute Discord and saw a message from one of our community members who's been on the show in the past, Cannabis, our friend Cannabis, about a Spaces going down on Twitter, a Twitter Space. I clicked through and joined. The Spaces was being hosted by GoblinTown.wtf, the latest hot NFT project that had been a free mint the Friday before, so like 5 days before. And by that Wednesday, by the time of the live show, had mooned to like one Ethereum, like about $1,800. The Spaces that I joined just to listen from the First Mint account. It had about 800 people in it. And the people speaking were not speaking at all. They were actually all doing one thing. The people on the, that are allowed to speak in Twitter Spaces, they're all doing one simple thing: making goblin sounds.
Hey, free my bag. No bag. Egg, no bag. Egg,
Goblin only no bag.
burger.
A spectacle, to say the least. By the end of the Spaces, the floor on these GoblinTown NFTs was about 2 Ethereum, which is not as much as it used to be. Like, ETH is down, so that's only about $3,600, but it's a lot more than zero. And actually kind of surprising given this like down NFT market that everything is down. So how could this random project be up? It was kind of the thinking. And you guys know us. You guys know us the First Minute. Me personally, that I really like weird shit, especially this kind of stuff. I love it. So I applaud this kind of weirdness. And whatever you want to qualify it as is performance art, maybe in NFTs, or maybe the NFT community kind of losing its mind, or in some cases, like pure genius, maybe. But some people on Twitter had a different word for it, a term that has been brought back to relevance in the via the NFT community, one that's been used in crypto and a lot of other markets in the past. Some people called the pump of GoblinTown exit liquidity, which is a term used for to designate like either influencers or savvy traders dumping NFTs or other assets they bought for low once the price is kind of topping out the exit liquidity, of course. A new concept for some, if you've never been in a trading market. I know a couple of years ago it was new for me. I saw a tweet shortly after that really marked how a lot of people felt like this GoblinTown thing was exit liquidity for whoever had pumped it. I don't know who pumped it, maybe for the goblins. The tweet said, and I can't find it anymore, it said that NFTs are just now about who is whose exit liquidity. And I really thought about that for a second because I don't necessarily disagree. The emphasis here is on that term in the market. And that actually kind of inspired the thoughts for today's show about whether NFTs will ever only be about anything more than just money, and how the answer to that question might lay in a paper recently published by Vitalik Buterin, the founder of Ethereum, about Soulbound Tokens. This is the First Mint. Now, before we get into the show, got to tell you what we got going on at the First Mint this week, and it's all about Wednesday this week. We have 4 different things happening on Wednesday. Sometimes it happens during the week where it's just like everything gets pulled into one day. So at 8 o'clock Pacific, if you are in the First Mint Discord, if you hold a day one NFT, we're going to be doing a little alpha chat. We always like to get together and just chat about which projects are hot, what we're into. So that is going to be for a little coffee time, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 o'clock Eastern. Then a few hours later at 10:30 Pacific, we are going to be on, I think, I'm not sure this is happening, but I think we're going to be on for the UFC strike drop. We've been kind of doing a couple things there with the team at Dapper, really enjoying talking UFC and meeting the community there. So we're going to be on for that. And then at 1 o'clock Pacific, that's right, the day's not done. We're going to be on Nifty's, our partners in Nifty's, our wonderful partners at Nifty's that we, did the Matrix drop with. We're going to be on with them for a very special announcement. A very special announcement. Not exactly what you think it's going to be. So that's at 1 o'clock Pacific, also on a Twitter space. The UFC one, also a Twitter space. And then that night, 5 o'clock Pacific, we have our live show. The third episode in of this current run last week was a hell of a good time where we looked at made up flow profile picture projects. And this week, sure to be a very fun episode. Also, it's Monday, so shout out to our American friends for Memorial Day. If you guys are off, hope you're having a very safe holiday, getting some time away, unplugging from NFTs and crypto, and honestly, hopefully listening to this way later in the week once you're back at work and you've kind of enough of your family or the barbecues or whatever it is you do on your holiday. Even if it wasn't a holiday for you, I always say this, hope you are taking time away, relaxing. Hope if it's summer where you are, time hopefully to get back out there. Also, before we get into the topic for today, a gentle reminder / PSA that nothing on the First Mint, anywhere at all on the First Mint is trading advice, not financial advice. A lot of these are just ideas, convictions, opinions, and some might even contradict ideas from the past. We might say something now that's different from a year ago. Of course, that's it's NFTs, man. They change, and so do our opinions, our thoughts. And I just want to make sure that nobody here thinks that this is trading advice. The last couple episodes have been pretty deep about, hey, here's what the market's doing, here's what it may or may not do, how to get ready for NFT winter, and really up to you guys to make up your minds. We're just, I'm just putting out my thoughts, our thoughts in general about what is happening, and by no means should be taken as advice. This podcast, as you know, has turned into something that's closer to being, my personal canvas about what is going on in the industry, what is top of mind for me and the community. And obviously, that's represented a bit of a change in the podcast lately. Early on, we were all about having guests on from the Top Shot community and talking about Top Shot. But as you can tell now, I have been changing it up. We're kind of building a different approach that mirrors that mentality a lot, or mirrors that change. And you'll see that play out, I think, in the next couple of weeks. In fact, going to paint us an even broader canvas across Web3. Nothing too crazy. You'll see what I mean in a little bit, but it's going to give us the opportunity to dive into far more tangible ideas for the industry of NFTs and more ways to kind of for platforms and projects and people to make positive change, or to highlight how people, platforms, and projects can make positive change, or just positive stuff like entertaining markets like NFTs in the world of Web3. But that said, I do want to address something that I guess is not from the past, but might feel like it's the past. This week will be the start of the NBA Finals. And I'm recording this prior to watching Game 7 of the Celtics and Heat, so I don't know what's going to happen, but obviously it might be a little hard to have a beer, watch the game, and then record this kind of sloppy podcast after, so I don't know the outcome as I'm recording this. But I will say things in Top Shot have been hard lately. I know a lot of our community are still very deep into Top Shot, and it hasn't just been lately, right? It's been for a while. Less than a year ago, the 2021 season finals started July 7th. It was late due to the pandemic and the delayed 2020 bubble, kind of ending that season late in like October. The episode we made then was titled "The Pundits Pick the Finals." We had Taylor Stein, Steve Chugs come on, and I actually don't think anybody picked the Bucks to win in 6, so that was kind of hilarious. Nobody got it right. It was a positive podcast about Top Shot. We're excited about the product, excited about the NBA. But if you look at other podcasts, and this is like a year ago, if you look at other podcasts from the First Mint around that time, there were signs that things were not that great. July 5th, we had an episode titled "Did Top Shot Get Boring?" June 28th, we had a podcast episode titled "The Playoff Market Slump." June 23rd, we had one titled "The Donovan Mitchell Fumble." And lately, the switch to Top Shot Score has been kind of rough on the market. I mean, amongst many other things being rough on the market. but it completely destroyed people's team sets, including mine. I stacked Kyle Lowry's for so long, and now that doesn't mean anything anymore. And that's really hard to accept. And some of the new features in Top Shot have been met with some pretty mild fanfare, right? Like the bidding system was introduced the other day. I don't even think we posted about it on the first mint. There's a referral system out that maybe some people will use. And Magic Johnson is coming to the platform. But somehow it doesn't feel like enough, or maybe it's a little too late. I don't want to go into this and like over dissect it. I think we've done enough of that on First Mint in the past. We've talked a lot about Top Shot. But I will say, obviously, this offseason is absolutely key for Top Shot, for improving the marketing and for finding that MVP product to make Top Shot awesome again, if it can ever be that. And that's kind of tough because we don't really know what an awesome institutional product is supposed to look like in NFTs. At least not one as big as this, right? And that's so contentious, and that was so part of the history of NFTs, the recent history of NFTs. I have no idea where NFTs are going, but also where Top Shot is going. So I can only fall back on what we do know. One, the NBA, honestly, has a fantastic product. It does. Some duds of conference finals games, honestly, some pretty terrible ones. Some weird matchups. But the product overall is fantastic. If you're listening to this, is a chance that you still really love the NBA. That's one thing we know. And the second thing we know is that Top Shot will not stop trying to nail it. So if you're wondering what to do with Top Shot now at the most important part in the NBA season, the start of the finals, the most exciting, the biggest media blitz there is. If you're wondering what to do as I am, well, you better be comfortable with that feeling of uncertainty. You better be comfortable with uncomfortableness, because I don't think there's a solution just yet. But I do think there is one. And it's not necessarily about Top Shot moments making us tons of money like it was for a long time. And that's today's topic. Will NFTs ever not be about making money? And will that method, or the way that happens, be Soulbound Tokens, a term that nobody knew a few weeks ago? Let's level set a little bit before we get into it. Level set on NFTs. Where are we at right now? Personally, I'm not drawn to very much, honestly. Like, usually I'm just buying like a fiend, but right now I'm not really sure what I'm doing. Been selling some stuff, recouping cash. Like I said, I whatever I do whatever I say in the podcast, there's a very good chance that I'm doing something similar to that. I'm not making it up. It's how I feel, and often reflects how I'm acting. I know there's a lot of alpha groups out there, and a lot of them are really focused on kind of like flipping all these kind of crap NFTs. GoblinTown, a great example of that, and even a greater example, like I said in the intro, about the general community sentiment realizing that, thinking like, hey, now in the bear market, are we just really all about this part? Are we just about trying to flip? Is that the only activity we have to do while we wait for all these other projects to build? And it's had me ask myself, like, is that it? Is that what we're doing? We're just waiting now, either trying to flip crap or wait for the big stuff to come. We know NFTs are not just about making money, but the public thinks that they're only about making money, which is maybe the problem. The public has so much trouble understanding what NFTs are, and even more trouble understanding their value. And as much as when people in my life do ask me about it, I try to preach, I try and softly explain to them. And I know I'm not convincing them, because the most publicly known NFTs are PFPs, profile picture projects. And explaining that to people and why those are so popular, how this sense of identity for people online, it's a piece of a new brand, all that stuff, it doesn't make sense, honestly. It honestly doesn't really make sense to them. And when you take a step out of it and watch yourself from afar saying it, you realize the same thing, or at least I do. Because it sounds like a total dumbass investment. Not a technology shift, which is what maybe I really think NFTs are, or even just a smart investment. It sounds foolish. Think about it. When the stock market went down a couple weeks ago, or all the time it's gone down, people have good reasons for it. People are like, oh, it's because the rates are going up and we have to battle inflation and there's a war. The greatest bull market ever had to come to an end at some point, and it started during the last recession, blah, 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 blah. People know, everybody has these facts about why the stock market's gone down. NFTs go down. You step outside of NFTs, most people are like, yeah, no shit that went down. That's ridiculous that that ever went up. All that stuff I just said about the current NFT market also kind of makes me realize that maybe we've lost what originally attracted us to NFTs, or at least what originally attracted me. And I can't help it. You know, when I'm catching up at the end of the day, trying to read about NFT projects, whatever, I'm just like, am I just trying to get these to either make someone else my exit liquidity or to be someone's exit liquidity? Is that all I'm doing? Right? Especially after seeing that tweet, I'm like, is that all I'm thinking about? And what happened? I feel kind of ashamed. I'm like, what happened to that original promise of NFTs? What made me originally fall in love with the idea, which was not the money, it was the things that they could do. There's a vision for NFTs that existed prior to profile pictures, and it was amazing. And it was a huge part of that vision and that promise that helped bolster Top Shot's case at the very beginning. There are three things that we used to say about NFTs that were very exciting, and they still are. One, that it was a store of digital value, an intangible store of digital value, in a world where communities could pool capital together and create value in online assets, where things like Instagram and Web2, despite having big accounts and photos and all that kind of stuff, failed to ever actually make those have actual value. We're able to now create an online value, create online items that have value. We already had that in crypto, of course, and in currency, but NFTs were going to be the retail version of creating online digital value, and where we would allow communities to agree on their own version of that value, give them that independence. The second thing we were promised about NFTs from the very beginning, and I will say these are things that I preached, very early on when I started First Minute, things blew up very, very, very overwhelmingly, very unexpectedly. People wanted me to be on their podcast a lot, and this is what I would talk about. I would talk about like, hey, here's what you're learning about NFTs. Here are the things that they are beyond just LeBron moments. This is the kind of stuff I would say, and I still believe this. I'm ashamed that I don't think about these things as much. The second one is the quantification of community value, the coming together over digital assets, and how other technologies in crypto, like social tokens, would allow us to make out the true workings of a community. Sounds a little complicated, a lot of mumbo jumbo there. Basically, I always thought that, and still think, that NFTs and social tokens would allow us to see who contributes the most in a community and find ways to reward them. Hasn't really happened yet, hasn't taken off the way I thought it would. It's a concept beyond NFTs, of course, and one that NFT communities have started to adopt or maybe will adopt in the future. It's about communities coming together over that shared value and being able to agree where it should be assigned within that group. And the third use case of NFTs was that it would replace painful real world items. Come on, things like trading cards. That was what Top Shot was about. It was like, get rid of your trading cards. What are you doing? Right? What are you doing? You these boxes and grading them and stuff. We have an elegant solution now. We have these online digital highlights. That was the best sales aspect, the best sales pitch for Top Shot was, especially when things were scarce and there were very few players and there were very few of them. That was the whole thing. It was like, listen, trading cards are gone, man. This is it. And we'd talk about other items that were promised, like high school diplomas, work certificates, maybe even driver's license would be an NFT. Or even simpler, like a ticket stub from a music show, maybe one that you went to a long time ago where that artist became a massive musical guest or musical artist. And that ticket now gets you into shows as a reward for being an early adopter, some other kind of intricate loyalty program. NFTs were supposed to be the digital solution to all these old paper things that we've been doing just the way we've been doing them for so long. Coincidentally, that last part is what's come back lately in Vitalik's paper titled Decentralized Society Finding Web3's Soul. It's funny, this paper, it came out on May 10th, which is just around the time when things were crashing. Maybe well placed because Vitalik knew that things were going to go down, and that as the founder of Ethereum, which is kind of all things crypto outside of Bitcoin, He needed to kind of paint a picture for where he thinks things are going next. So maybe it was well timed, or maybe it just happened to be that way. In this paper, Decentralized Society Finding Web3 Soul, he talks about soulbound NFTs, a term we've never heard before. Like I said, never heard of that, and how they're the future of blockchain, or at least of Ethereum. He describes how we're all going to have something called a soul wallet, which is very much like an NFT wallet now, but one that is perhaps higher security and far more important than the ones we can just kind of create at will on MetaMask or wherever. And it'll be a wallet where NFTs can be sent to, but cannot ever leave, which would then create an official record of someone's past, and where maybe that wallet could only accept tokens from certain other institutions or organizations. It'd be like an amalgamation of LinkedIn and eBay reviews, right? Where your record, your soulbound wallet would have records of things like your high school diploma and maybe your driver's license, and would leverage the trustlessness of decentralization and combine that with the real world authentication that we truly crave. The paper speaks to how soulbound NFTs will be able to bring social fiber to the metaverse, how larger communities and institutions won't make that jump to online without the trustability of true identity. Quoting from his paper, Web3 aspires to transform societies broadly rather than merely financial systems. Yet today's social fabric, families, churches, teams, companies, civil society, celebrity, democracy, is meaningless in virtual worlds, often called the metaverse, without primitives representing human souls and the broader relationship they support. If Web3 eschews persistent identities, their patterns of trust and cooperation, and their composable rights and permissions, we see, respectively, Sybil attacks, collusion, and a limited economic rub of wholly transferable private property, all of which trends towards hyperfinancialization. To skirt hyperfinancialization, yet unlock exponential growth, we propose augmenting and bridging our sociality across virtual and physical realities, empowering souls and communities to encode rich social and economic relationships. But simply building on trust and cooperation is not enough. Correcting for biases and tendencies to over-coordinate or collude among trust networks is essential to encouraging more intricate, diverse relationships that span greater social distances than before. We call this Decentralized Society, DSOC, a code-determined sociality where souls and communities convene bottom-up as emergent proprieties of each other to produce plural network goods across different scales. I highly recommend you look at this paper. Some of it is very smart. A lot of it is very key term, but I think it has to be. There are a lot of great summaries online, so you can just look up the name of the paper. Again, it's from Vitalik Buterin, Decentralized Society Finding Web3 Soul. It details a wonderful image, and one, of course, that comes with a lot of dangers, right? There's even he in the paper compares it to China's social credit system, which has a lot of pitfalls. Like if you have a bad social credit score and like you've done negative behavior, you can't get on a plane, for example. So that's not good. We don't want to necessarily have that in crypto. That's not what he's trying to encourage. Now let's go back to, will NFTs only ever be about money? If your first thought when I was talking about SBTs, Soulbound Tokens, was, will they have a market? Then that's how we know that NFTs right now are all about money. By nature here, it sounds like they probably won't have a market. That's the whole point, is that it's supposed to be like an assured thing. So what does that mean for our current NFTs? Will they stop having a market one day once everybody has these soulbound things and our high school diplomas are just NFTs? We don't need apes and Top Shots anymore? Or will SBTs just kind of become part of what NFTs are? If SBTs come to fruition, it's likely that they're going to be the NFTs that are forced upon people and give them their first crypto wallet. It might be that they literally don't have a choice, which may propel a lot of people to finally want other types of NFTs. Kind of like the internet at first, right? Like at first, people ridiculed the internet. We know compared that to Web3, what people used to say about Web1, whatever. And eventually, a lot of people, they had to get something like an email address to do certain things or sign up for things or get certain information. And as a result, they probably used a search engine for the first time or used eBay for the first time. So something like an SBT might be that gateway into crypto or into NFTs or both for the rest of the people, all those hundreds of millions of people that we've been promised are going to come into NFTs one day. That could be the way that they come in, that they don't have a choice. It could actually turn into the most practical use of the internet like ever. Like that could be the apex of what the internet is meant for, that and probably Google and YouTube. Now, whether that happens or not, it's very likely that a part of NFTs will always be this way, the way it is right now, because I think there's a lot of people that really love what it is now. Even though I'm a little indifferent, I'm not really sure what we're doing. I think a lot of people really love that, love this weird like shitcoin kind of market. It will always be about money in that way. And I'm excited for that part because if it does stay about this market and all these NFTs that people want to trade, that means it'll probably solidify. It's super chaotic right now. There are no rules. We think there are. We think we know the rules. Like, oh, good projects have this kind of team and this kind of roadmap and this kind of community and whatever. But like, we don't know that shit. We know nothing. This is a brand new thing. Nobody knows where it's going to be in a couple of years. This market has massive daily fluctuations. It makes no sense. No one's going to touch it that way. If apes are 90 ETH one day, 150 the next, and back down to 90, or people making goblin sounds can vibe their way to a 3 ETH floor, which is practically what goblins are at right now. There's no way that if NFTs stay about money, that those parts will remain. Maybe it will. Maybe I'm saying that we don't know anything, and yet I'm pretending to know something. But I don't see how that's possible. But maybe those fluctuations are part of what makes it all feel like it's all about money, and less so about asset retention or investment or art. Maybe those things will rise in prominence. Maybe consistency will rise in importance. And most importantly, maybe the price of the NFTs will no longer be the important part when evaluating the success of a project. That's saying a project brings values to its holders will take on a different meaning outside of just the money. Or maybe this has just been one big pump all along. And NFTs are dying a slow death and Vitalik's wrong. If that's true, well, it's been an awful shame, and I don't know what's going to happen in this business or what I'm doing. So I hope that part's not true. I want to hear from you guys. I want to know what you guys think. Do you have any NFTs that are not about the value for you? Do you have any NFTs that you're really proud of? And you're proud of the fact that they don't have value, or that you would simply never sell them because they really mean something to you, or they're important in a different way, in a way that we haven't quantified yet. And do you think it will only ever be financial? You guys know that my DMs and the First Minutes DMs are always open, so I want to hear from you. And that is going to do it for us today, folks. Thank you so much for listening, as usual. Appreciate you guys so much. Please join us Wednesday for the gauntlet of First Minute shows and everything. And make sure you definitely tune in for the live show Wednesday night so we can see you next time on the First Minute.